Hello and welcome to the Podquest of Bread. My name is Henry Conley. Tonight I want to talk about standing by and what the Trump administration, specifically President Trump during last night's debates, is attempting to do by telling a certain group of people to stand back and stand by. So for anybody that didn't watch last night was the first of three presidential debates where Republican nominee and incumbent Donald Trump squares off against Democratic nominee Joe Biden. And as I talked about on my podcast the other day, just before the debates, there were some things that I was expecting to see, and I was fully expecting the attacks that Donald Trump put out there, but I wasn't expecting them to the level that they were played out. And I just want to say a couple things very quickly. And these are not endorsements of Joe Biden, but these are just things that I noticed. First off, attacking someone's dead son is not only unpresidential, it's inhuman. It's absolutely fucking disgusting. I think that was possibly up there on the list of the top 5 or top 6 trashiest moments from this pitiful excuse for a debate. I just want to be clear about that. Second, attacking someone's son who had an addiction and then moved on and recovered from that addiction, that is also pretty fucking trashy and disgusting and unbecoming of a president. I just want to get those two things out of the way really quick there. And Joe Biden did handle that pretty well, a lot better than I would have. Because the way I react to that type of stuff, I probably would have lunged across the stage. It's just how I am. So Joe Biden handled that pretty well. But I did talk about on the podcast the other night how Donald Trump would try and cue into Joe Biden's mental acuity and talk about how Biden's slipping into dementia or Biden is slipping in some general shape or form. And again, this is not an endorsement of Joe Biden, just me looking at what was going on and just a solid takeaway. Joe Biden's mental acuity is actually there. He was both answering questions from Chris Wallace, listening to Donald Trump's incoherent ramblings, and writing down the things that Donald Trump was saying. He was multitasking pretty well for an elder man. And that was impressive. Not impressive enough for me to be swayed over by him. And we'll talk about the things that Joe Biden specifically failed on in any attempts to convert leftists over to his cause. But I wanted to get to a couple things first. And specifically regarding the President of the United States, his demeanor and his how he held himself during the debates. I've talked to a few friends that live overseas, and I've gotten their responses and their opinions on what they thought of what that debate was. And most of them, it ranged from God help you to that was utter trash to them saying the few clips they've seen, they want Donald Trump gone even more. In the eyes of the world stage, we kind of degraded even further than I thought we could last night. And it has a lot to do with the demeanor and the way Donald Trump carried himself into the debates. See, Donald Trump, as I said, he is a horrendous debater. He does not have the ability to debate. And the thing that Donald Trump does not have the ability to do is distinguish between campaign events like his rallies and then more serious things like debates. Campaign rallies, you're surrounded by people who support you. Pretty much without doubt. They are there to hear you talk. Anything you say, they are likely going to cheer for, especially in Donald Trump's cult. Debates, you are surrounded by people who may support you, may not support you, and a moderator who is supposed to be unbiased and hold you accountable for the things you say. And Donald Trump exemplified why he sucks at debating yet again. For every question Donald Trump was asked, for everything he was at, every point he tried to make, and that he was held accountable for the false lies that he put forth in them, he had no ability to defend himself. He sat there and he said that insulin is tearing families apart, which I'm not sure if he was trying to say something about heroin or something else, or if he literally thinks that insulin is tearing families apart. To which I have to say, the only thing it's doing is causing people to die because they can't afford it, and that needs to fucking be fixed. But then he moves on to other topics where when they were talking about Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, he said that his complex plan was getting rid of the individual mandate, which is not a complex plan. It's not a plan that carries to the future. It is literally just one action that has no impact besides people don't have to pay because they don't have health insurance. Donald Trump went on the attack. And in fact, not only his critics were saying that it was disgusting, but even people who helped debate prepped him said that he went overboard, that he went into it with the wrong demeanor, that he went into it in a way that's not going to sway over voters. And I think there's a reason behind it, and it's really the title of this podcast. And the reason is because he wasn't going into this trying to sway over new voters. His debate prep team might have been preparing him to attempt to try and draw people over to him, to get people over to support him, but that wasn't the goal. Donald Trump had zero interest in converting new supporters last night. Absolutely none. And in fact, Joe Biden picked up on it. Joe Biden picked up on it and called it out very bluntly by saying, this isn't the 1950s, dog whistling doesn't work. And though Joe Biden's smart for calling that out, I have to correct him here because dog whistling apparently does still work in 2020. Donald Trump has been proving that for the last 4 fucking years. Now, Donald Trump's entire goal going into this debate, if it wasn't to convert new supporters, what was it? That might be what you're asking right now. What was it? What was his goal? What was he trying to do? And really his goal and his entire objective of this debate was to cast doubt on the election, cast doubt on Joe Biden, and really to invigorate his base to also do such. His entire goal was to use a debate, which is usually meant to sway undecided voters to your cause, in order to turn it into a campaign stop and a way for him to get the rest of the message that he wanted to get out there. Go to the polls. Make sure you watch them polls. Make sure you be there. Be forceful. Make sure they let you in. He was very, very poignant on the point that he wanted his supporters out at the polls watching the polling stations. What most people would take that as is he just wants his people out there with the Trump 2020 MAGA CAG signs. But that's not what he was getting at. And it all plays into a certain phrase he said. What he was getting at is he wants his supporters, a certain sect of those supporters, the certain ones that like to wear tactical gear. You've heard me talk about that on this podcast before, and carry around AR-15s or weapons that are not tactically useful within a urban environment. Donald Trump right there, when he said go to the polls, he wanted them at the polls and watching the polling stations. Yeah, sure. He's going to get some of his supporters who don't understand what he's saying that show up with Trump signs. But the supporters he was really pointing that message at, they knew exactly what he was saying. Donald Trump was telling them to show up at the polling stations armed in order to defend his electors, the people that will be voting for him. See, that's what Donald Trump wants. Donald Trump wants people showing up to the polls, open carrying, armed. Because here's what his intentions are. His intention is to sway away any potential in-person voters that would be going in to vote for Joe Biden by scaring them off by armed militias standing outside of the polling locations. And the reason Trump wants this to happen is because Donald Trump knows that the only way he's going to win is to sway voters away from voting. He did this another way by casting doubt on the mail-in balloting. Yet again. The reason he casted doubt on the mail-in balloting is to, again, try to convince people that mail-in balloting doesn't work and that it's fraudulent. He's hoping that some of those people that were thinking about mailing in a ballot for Joe Biden might go, yeah, you know what? Maybe it might not be safe. Maybe I should go to the polling locations. Hoping that, one, they wouldn't send in a mail-in ballot, and two, they would show up at the polling locations and be greeted by armed Trump supporters, therefore deterring them away from voting. Again, because Donald Trump knows that there is more than likely going to be a blowout turnout against him and in favor of Joe Biden, mostly during via mail-in balloting. That's just the blunt fact. Joe Biden is clearly going to have more supporters do mail-in ballots. He's likely to have less supporters show up to the polling locations. So if Donald Trump can somehow possibly sow a little bit of fear into these mail-in ballot Joe Biden supporters and convince them to be greeted by armed security at the polling locations, Donald Trump's hoping to steal the election through that, which, by the way, is a fascist thing. See, Donald Trump was very, very, very clear in his fascist intentions yesterday. He was very clear on them. Antifa, BLM, and anarchists were brought up. The question was posed at Joe Biden whether he would deter support or would denounce them. And then Trump also tried to claim that they were going to control Joe Biden. For anybody that doesn't understand, the left does not like Joe Biden. We fucking loathe him. And if any leftist is walking in to vote for Joe Biden, they're going to be holding their nose, trying not to barf as they do it. And the only reason they're doing it is because they're trying to get rid of fascism in this country. But Donald Trump said that. Joe Biden almost immediately flipped it back at him, and then Chris Wallace flipped it at him, saying, will you denounce white supremacist groups? Will you denounce white supremacy and militia groups? And of course, Trump tried to dance around the question. He tried first by saying, I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing. I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace. This is in stark contrast to Donald Trump in speaking about Charlottesville, where he said there were fine people on both sides. Charlottesville, which was instigated by right-wing violence. Donald Trump is very clear to look over this. Charlottesville, which had Proud Boy members beating down leftists fighting for people's rights. Chris Wallace followed it up by saying, well, then do it, sir. And Donald Trump said this, who would you like me to condemn? The Proud Boys? Stand back and stand by. And then he followed it up with, but I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing problem. Do you hear that? You hear that? That's a dog whistle. That's what a dog whistle sounds like. That is exactly what a dog whistle is. First off, the president of the United States told a white supremacist majority group, a group who is known for their violence, to stand back and stand by. That group has now already turned that phrase into their fucking logo and the literal marching orders for the group leading to the election. That group has already stood up and said, okay, Mr. President, we are standing by. The leader of that group has already said they are standing by. Donald Trump is rounding his brown shirts up. Donald Trump is getting them ready. Because Donald Trump recognizes that he is losing this fucking election. And he is getting them ready to defend his house. Because that's what he views the White House as. He knows that the Proud Boys will do anything to keep him in the office of the presidency, up to and including an insurgency. And that is nothing more than what he is doing right now. By telling them to stand back and stand by refusing to acknowledge right-wing violence, by refusing to condemn them, he is getting them fired up and getting them ready to carry out his marching orders when he loses November 3rd. I've been saying this like crazy. November 4th through January 20th are going to be some of the most dangerous times in the history of this country because of things just like this. Donald Trump firing up the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys will fire up the alt-right. The alt-right will fire up the white nationalists. And his brown shirts will be ready to fight for him to the death. I have photos from within 4chan and 8chan groups, from within Telegram groups, of Proud Boys literally savoring the thought of murdering people in the streets. This is no joke anymore. This is fascism. This is totalitarianism. And this is the death of democracy in America. And we witnessed it before our very eyes on the presidential debate last night. And if you think I'm fired up for no reason, I'm fired up for a reason. There's a sticker behind me, and the shirt I am wearing labels me as an enemy of Trump's people. My life, my comrades' and my friends' lives are in danger because of the words he spoke last night, because of the dog whistle he did last night. Donald Trump, after dog whistling to him, telling them to stand back and stand by, topped it off by saying, I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing problem. When Joe Biden tried to point out that Antifa is not an organization, Donald Trump reacted by saying, you have got to be kidding me. Donald Trump wants violence. Donald Trump wants blood in the streets. Donald Trump wants me, my comrades, and people like me that are standing up against a fascist dictatorship in its infancy to be dead. There's no other way to be more clear about this. Last night, he called out my city, Philadelphia, and said bad things happen in Philly. Trump, I got a message for you. The bad things that happen in Philly are when the fascists show up to town. The good things that happen in Philly are us driving fascist fucking pieces of shit like you out of office. Stay beautiful, humans.